Hey everyone, what's up? Gamer Guy 7 Aces here, back with another Sonic discussion. And this is something I've been wanting to discuss about for a while now, but I never knew how to put it into words. So I had to do a lot of research, and I did extensive research on companies of Sega and Nintendo. So basically, this topic is something that, a lot of Sonic fans have been arguing, discussing for several years about what went wrong with the Sonic franchise, why it started going downhill and up and just being a roller coaster. A lot of people blame Iizuka for it. Iizuka has been the butt of many jokes, especially the Wisp, because as we know, Takashi Iizuka loves the Wisps, and he's been one of the biggest supporters of the Wisp being in the games. So we just like to pick on him, not even knowing his involvement with the Sonic series since Sonic 3 and Knuckles. I mean, he was there originally with Michael Jackson and Johnson Now and all those people when they made Sonic 3, which is arguably one of the best Sonic games ever, if not the best, and the best classic Sonic game. So it's time for me to dive into this subject, dive into this bitch, and discuss Sega's greatest weakness is that they are not united, which was evident during Sonic 06 when Yuji Naka left. So the whole thing is, a company united cannot fall. If it's divided, they fall. You know the gist. United we stand, divided we fall. And this is something that Nintendo has in spades. Now, the three biggest people that are behind Sonic's success, I like to call them the Trinity of Sonic, is Takashi Iizuka. Well, number one should be Yuji Naka. Yuji Naka, Takashi Iizuka, and Shun Nakamura. Yuji Naka is pretty much the backbone. He's been the backbone of Sonic. The creation, from the very creation of Sonic to keeping Sonic in the right direction with his main games. I'm talking about the consoles. I'm not talking about the handhelds with dimps. And ever since he left with Sonic 06, it's like Sonic has not had a backbone. Sonic has kind of been like an invertebrate having to form its own backbone, its own foundation. And then you have Takashi Iizuka, who has been in the Sonic games, developing Sonic games since Sonic 3. He made a huge presence with Sonic Adventure 1. I'll get more into that later. And he's pretty much been the inspiration for Sonic. He's the reason why Sonic has taken on these many forms, these many gimmicks, be it good or bad. And Yuji Naka has always been there to kind of keep him aligned, but ever since he's gone, Iizuka's pretty much gone ham. But Iizuka, what is the one that comes with the ideas for new Sonic games? And Shun Nakamura he's basically been behind the story and the plot of Sonic games. The moment he left is when we got silly, simple stories. So I will talk about three of them first, but first let me talk about Nintendo and why the Mario games have been very stable and successful. Let's talk about the very beginning, Super Mario Bros. 1985. Shigeru Miyamoto, he was the director of the Mario Bros. Games. He's the creator. He's the Stan Lee of Mario. Sonic was created by two people, whereas Mario was created by one person, kind of like Spider-Man created by Stan Lee. Or you can say Stan Lee and Steve Ditko. But anyway, I digress. So Miyamoto has been the main drive behind the Mario games. I mean, he's been through the whole classics directors. Even with the 3D titles, like the only 3D Mario game I think that he's been the director, and quote me if I'm wrong, was Mario 64. After Mario 64, he's pretty much just taken a backseat to the Mario games. He's always been producer, kind of like how Yuji Naka was with the modern Sonic games. He's always been producer, always been at the backside of things. The games where he really wasn't that involved in was, the Mario games that Miyamoto wasn't involved with at all is New Super Mario Bros. 2. And you can just tell because that game sucked. A lot of people didn't like the whole coin gimmick of New Super Mario Bros. 2. He has been involved with the other New Super Mario Bros. Games, especially the original and the New Super Mario Bros. U. But the names I always continue seeing is Miyamoto and Kondo. Now, if you guys don't know who Koji Kondo is the guy who is behind the music, the soundtrack, the iconic music of Mario. Even Mario Galaxy, when Mario took a more orchestral sound. Kondo would collaborate with other people like Mahito Yokota or whatever to, make the music more orchestral and symphonic. So both of those people have always been consistent in the Mario games, even though Miyamoto has taken a back seat. And even with 3D World, which Miyamoto wasn't that involved in, he wasn't really involved in the 3D Land, 3D World. He's mainly been just the producer with those games, I think. Yeah. Now, the only Mario games where Miyamoto is not credited at all is actually the one that's coming out this year, Super Mario Odyssey. The people in it, like Miyamoto and Kondo, are not credited in it at all. So this is going to be a very different Mario game. You know, hopefully it will be great, but it takes its inspiration from Super Mario 64 and Sunshine. But the people working in this, from producer to director, I've never heard of them before. And the guy the producer actually is Yoshiaki Koizumi, who's actually been the brains behind the Legend of Zelda series. And yeah, and he's done a whole bunch of other Nintendo games like Mario games and Donkey Kong games. So basically Miyamoto's letting them do this Mario game, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be right because these are the people that have been guided by Miyamoto. The point is, the company is united. They're never divided when they're making these Mario games, unless if we're talking about spin-offs. And even then, the spin-offs still have a central focus and a guide to help them. Now let's go back to Sonic. With the Sonic games, let's start with the classic age. The classic Sonic games were pretty much always directed or produced with the game designer Yuji Naka. The first two Sonic games, Sonic 1, Sonic 2. The first real division that the Sonic games had was the SEGA companies. You know, SEGA of Japan worked on Sonic the Hedgehog 1 and Sonic the Hedgehog CD or Sonic CD, while SEGA of America worked on Sonic 2 and Sonic 3 and Knuckles. And they were still both led by Yuji Naka. So and this one actually surprised me, the only classic Sonic game that did not have any of the familiar names you know of, nothing, was Sonic CD. That's why Sonic CD is the black sheep. That's why Sonic CD is so different from the other classic games, because it was a completely different team working on it for the Sega CD. You still had some familiar names who worked on Sonic, but they only worked on the design of Sonic, designing Mr. Needlemouse or Sonic. They never, actually worked on the games until now. So that's why Sonic CD was such a different game. But I liked it. I loved it, And yeah, so Yuji Naka, Iizuka, and Nakamura. Takashi Iizuka came in with Sonic 3. He was pretty much in the back, he was one of the employees of Sonic Team Institute, I think, or Sega Technical Institute, which later became Sonic Team. Yeah, he was one of the designers. And then came John Snow, but I'm not talking about Snow. He's just part of the music. So there you have it. So that was the whole classic age. It was always Yuji Naka and Iizuka. Nakamura wouldn't come until way later, though. Nakamura didn't start working on Sonic games until Sonic R, or Sonic Adventure, but I'm just talking about the classics. Now, enter the Dreamcast era. This is when Iizuka got promoted to being the director. Matter of fact, all you Sonic fanboys that like to make fun of Takashi Iizuka, if it wasn't for him, there will be no Sonic Adventure games. It was his brains, his idea, that he was the one that basically translated Sonic into the 3D world. He's the one that helped change all those designs, made Sonic look more modern with the green eyes, soap shoes, longer quills, and all that. And he's the one that wanted Sonic to be an RPG, which evolved into Sonic Adventure. So to put down Iizuka is to put down Adventure. Now, I personally don't care much for the Adventure games, but Iizuka was really the voice of modernizing Sonic. So he was more of a leader, while Yuji Naka was more in the background. And Nakamura was the one who really started making the story more serious in the Sonic games, whether for good or for bad. Whether, I know there's a lot of plot holes, you can pick on the stories and the adventure games all you want. Still, Nakamura is who's the one who really made the Sonic stories pretty much iconic. And then came 06. Sonic 06 is when Yuji Naka left. Ironically enough, Sonic 06 was the game Iizuka never even took part in. Sonic 06, he never made that game. He was only credited as special thanks, but he had nothing to do with Sonic 06 other than promoting it. But Sonic 06 is when the whole Sonic Team company just fell apart. People were leaving. Like it was said that the whole original team that worked on Sonic 06 left with Yuji Naka, tasking a new team to work on the game, and they had to rush it. That was the whole reason why Sonic 06, well, that's one of the reasons why Sonic 06 was such a terrible game. Because it kind of reminds me of Big Red Button with Sonic Boom Rise of Lyric, but we're not talking about the Boom franchise. So that's why. So once Yuji Naka left, the Sonic series was in a state of flux. Now enter the modern age. Now with Nakamura also, he would depart after Sonic and the Black Knight. But between the years of 2006 to 2009, Sonic was in a real state of flux. Sometimes you had Sonic in the right direction, sometimes you had him in the wrong direction. So with Iizuka now trying to put everything back together now, he was faced with the task. He basically made the decision to split the teams into many divisions. There was an A team, a B team, and the C team. I like to call the C team the spin-off team, or the mediocre team. The A team would work on the main titles like Sonic Unleashed, Sonic Generations, etc. The B team would work on Sonic games like Sonic Colors, Sonic Lost World, you know, those games that were console specific and stuff. And the C team would work on the spin-off series like Sonic and the Secret Rings, Sonic and the Black Knight. This is good and bad. Yes, Generations, Colors were really good games. Unleashed was a step in the right direction, but then you would have, you know, missteps like Unleashed or the Werehog or Lost World and its many gimmicks. You know, so there was not a focus in the Sonic games. They had all these teams working on different Sonic games at the same time, coming out with Sonic games, multiple games in a year or one every year, instead of focusing and spending time on one game. And then Nakamura left after Sonic and the Black Knight, so they had to get new writers for the stories. Enter Pontac and Graf, or Graf and Pontac. From 2010 onwards, that's why the stories for the Sonic games haven't been up to par. They haven't been that interesting. They've been too slapstick and funny. You know, I appreciate the story in Sonic Colors, but after that, Sonic Generations basically had no story. Then you had Sonic Lost World, which the story was, it was trying to be a little dark, but was too funny and slapstick, and yeah, so the whole direction was all over the place. And anytime there was an aspect where Sonic succeeded, there was always another where he would fall. Generations, the gameplay was great. The story was lacking because there was no Nakamura, you know? Or you'll have Lost World, you know, where the gameplay is and the stories, and so it was never consistent with Sonic games. So like I said, because of too many people working on different things, not enough focus. Until Sonic Forces. Now, Sonic Forces, enter Sonic Forces. This is the first Sonic game where they're bringing back almost everyone that has worked on previous Sonic games. Of course, you have Iizuka. Then you have Nakamura, who hasn't been in a Sonic game since Sonic and the Black Knight. You have everyone except Yuji Naka. You know, it's kind of sad. Yuji Naka, he's formed his own company. He's been the head of Probe, a game company he founded after leaving Sonic Team. But you have basically everyone that's ever worked on Sonic games in Sonic Forces, and they worked on this game for 4 years. That is why I'm so excited for Sonic Forces. I feel like this game is going to be a great game because you've had these people working on this game for a long time. There's no longer an A team, a B team, and a C team, because this is the only main Sonic game we're getting besides Sonic Mania, which is a completely different ball game. That is under the brains of Christian Whitehead, who has been working on the remakes of the classics for the mobiles and all that stuff. So that's a completely different story. It's funny because if we didn't know who Christian Whitehead was, there's a good reason to not have faith in Sonic Mania, because we don't know these people. It's kind of like Sonic CD. But because Christian Whitehead, he's already have a phenomenal track record, and the people working on these were indie people like T-Lopes that we've all loved, we already know Mania is going to be a great game. But I'm talking about the main series, and Sonic Forces, they're bringing back everybody. So that makes me have faith that Sonic Forces is going to be the Sonic game we've been waiting for. So what do you guys think about this whole discussion? Sound off your comments down below. Let me know what you think on, do you think Sega should continue in the future splitting their teams into several divisions, having A team, B team, or do you think they should all get together like Nintendo and make Sonic games, which will take more time to make because everyone is working on it? Let me know in the comments. Be sure to like this video, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. And until next time, swag out.